Hello and welcome back to Combine and Conquer. It's been a couple of weeks or so since we took a look at the game, and that time the developer has updated the game a bit. We're now at version 0.3.4, and it was 0.3.0 in the last episode. So part of that came with some nice QOL updates. One of those is WASD will now pan the camera around, which is kind of a little more expected, I suppose, from most gamers. You can still use the arrow keys, though, so it's kind of a shared responsibility. And since WASD are now taken up by movement, they've remapped the some of these control menus to different keys here. So you can see that F through L on the one row, and then Z, X, and C on the other, and that gets us to these kinds of things. I was correct when I saw the recipe here. That's actually not a great example. The recipe here, the orange line, is a duplicate for any base recipe, because the base recipe uses the same amount of there's no secondary step. So you can see, like here with the gears, 2 iron plates becomes 1 gear, but here with the belts, 1 iron plate and 1 gear make 1 belt, therefore 3 iron plates make 1 belt. So it kind of gets you back down to the amount of raw things that you can have in a it's not even raw, because raw would be iron ore, but things that you can make, not counting what's smelted, I guess would be the way to word that. Let's see, the next bit was there's a couple other things that I mentioned that the developer was looking at and putting on their to-do list. Some things with how the game works, how what amount of time each thing takes to make, the number of ticks displayed, and the game tries to run at 60 ticks per second, but there's there's delays if there are too many calculations to do in those ticks, so that makes sense too. And then these different cursors and menus and things have been updated a little bit with their descriptions, so they're a little more obvious as to how they work. And we're going to actually experiment those with one of those at least in a little bit. So we need to see where our factory is having a bit of shortfall here. Right now, every iron plate that comes down the line is getting sucked up either as a gear or for the belt. So we're not getting any iron plates down here to science research. And we're stuck at 32 out of 100 for the crossings that we started researching last time. So we need to boost our iron plates production, and to do that we need more iron ore, as you can see. So let's add some more mining and smelting, or mining and belting of iron ore here onto. Oh, I don't have another arm. Ooh, you know what we don't need anymore? We don't need this anymore. We don't need to be making these anymore. We don't need any more labs right now, because we're currently making currently have 1, which is plenty for the amount of science that we're not making right now. So we can steal those from there, but we do need to make some arms. Let's look at the arms recipe. That takes, oops, wrong thing. That takes 4 iron plates and 4 gears. We have iron plates and gears here. We could just turn this into temporarily into an arm maker, which I think would make some sense. Let's do that. And that way we can make a few arms. The providers don't care what you feed into them, as long as they're a placeable item. So this provider isn't locked to belts. It can make arms just as easily, or it can store or provide arms just as easily. And in fact, as far as I understand it, things that are put into a provider are instantly part of our inventory, and we don't have to keep the provider there for anything. So, for example, the labs that we had stored in that provider, there was 2 in there. We now have those available to us, even though the provider is gone. So the provider is in storage. It's just like a transfer logically to another plane of existence, I guess. The other thing mentioned was the influencers here. These we use to extend our range down here a little bit, and they do not have to be placed inside the existing influence range. I didn't even try it. I totally should have. And they don't even need to be placed adjacent. So let's say we wanted to pick up this iron ore down here. We could put an influencer down here and we could start mining that iron ore. Now, we have to connect these up like this in order to be able to belt that iron ore into this existing base, unless we wanted to, use it exclusively down here, which you could do. You could have like a couple of miners, a couple of smelters, a couple of assemblers, and you could have a whole thing making belts or arms dedicated to a node down here that is just this iron here. So there's no reason why you couldn't do that if you wanted to. But we can also do is just place these so that they do extend the range of the thing here, of the main base here, at exactly the same shape. 3 of them wide are a little bit wider. I guess that's 2 blocks wider than the size of the starter. A particularly picky player would say, well, then you need to you should make the starter 2 tiles bigger so that it's exactly 3 of these wide. That doesn't bother me that much. I can just do like this, and then we can have the exact shape that I want, and I don't have to put them down weirdly or anything. Just that last one has a little bit of overlap, which is fine with me. But that's, yeah. So let's see how we're doing now. We're still probably struggling a little bit, so let's maybe add a little bit more here. See if that'll help our production of ore. Actually, I probably should have put it up here. Let's do that. There and here. Oh, also I'm using the right click to select the item that I want to place, as opposed to going into the menu every time. I find it easier than using the menus, and it doesn't matter. These menus or another game's menus. The point of it is that it's just too going into the menus is a lot harder than selecting the item and cloning it. We are getting some iron down here to the end of the line. Now this iron isn't getting picked up by this arm because we're not making any more chips because we don't have anything to make them into. So that's kind of a stuck point in the line, but that's okay. So we're at 43 out of 100 now, and we just need to keep feeding the iron down the line so that we keep cranking these out. I think while this is going, we should experiment with another feature of the game. That is the planner and the modules. So if we go into the planner is just a big blank canvas, and you can use this to design a build that you want to do without building it on the game. And what that gives you, among other things, is the ability to design free form without, I think, at least, without costing any items. Yeah, there's still 33 belts left, for example. So let's say we wanted to do an assembly here. The first thing you need to start with is a source. This is where the item comes in to your base. So let's say the source is this, and you have to set the recipe for what you want that source to be. In this case, it's already selected on iron plate, which is what I want, so that's good. And then what do we want to make with this iron plate? Well, we want to make belts. How do we make belts with iron plate? Well, we need to have an assembler making gears and an assembler making the actual belts themselves. So let's go here, place an assembler down. Let me think. How do I want to do this? How exactly do I want to do this? I think I want to do this like this. No, we can do it like this. Let's do it right here. And then we'll put another one here. So we want to program this first one to make gears from iron plates. And then we want to program the second one to make belts, from iron plates and gears. And then we can set up the arms here like this, and like this, and like this. And then we can delete some of these. We don't need them. And then we can output into a sink. Oops, that's not what you used output, Wally. Use one of these to output. Output into a sink the belts when they're done. So this is a planner, and what you can do in the planner besides actually try something out is to speed up how fast things go. And what that gives you is the ability to quickly see how much it takes of an item to make another item, and whether this even works or not. Maybe you missed a step or whatever, and you can go hyper fast here like this, and you can see every so often you end up backing up a little bit on the iron. So this is actually bringing in more iron faster than we can turn it into belts, which is actually a good thing to know as well. So we want to stop when all sinks have items, but I don't think we can actually do that. Maybe we can. There we are. So what that does is that tells it, okay, how many iron did I have to bring in? Which is 14 in order to, before this machine, this module, makes one of the items that are coming out. And then we can turn that into the amount of ticks that the module takes. See, the module default ticks here is 1,000. Well, it took us 3,560 ticks to make one item. So we need to program the module to make, to take exactly that amount of time. And so we just do that. As far as I can tell, this is how you do this anyway. There might be a better way, but we can actually restart it. Let's see, restart is here. And we'll stop at the ticks. And we may want to add a few more ticks here, but nope, it's good actually. Good. So now we can turn this into a module. And you go here to modulize, and then you can make this, you can call this a belt maker, for example. And now we have a module called a belt maker here. And this this explains how much stuff's in it for belts: 5 arms, 1 source, 1 sink, and 2 assemblers, and how much energy it costs and what the duration of it is. So if we click on this, then we can go back to the world map and we can actually place this down. This is a belt maker. So we place this down and it becomes a building of its own. It's a building of its own that has 1 input and 1 output, and contained within it is everything we need to make iron plates into belts. All we need to do is grab an arm here and an arm here, as well as a provider here, and now we're able to turn, and we're running low on power, we need to deal with that too. Now we can turn iron plates into belts without having to set up dedicated machines. And you might think, well, that's a really simple one. Maybe we want to do something better with that, and we can. The better thing we can do with that is place these down repeatedly for things like we might need them for later. Or you can make a module that makes a much more advanced item from some basic items, and you can repeat that pattern down instead of having to place the repeat it. It's basically like a blueprint in a way, except it's a self-contained blueprint, which is kind of an interesting concept. So let's fix power here because we're a little over on power. Let's right-click to copy this, and I'm going to put it here, and we'll copy this. Because right now, this miner is producing way more coal than this burner needs. So we can hopefully be able to feed at least 2 burners off of 1 miner, and maybe more. You can see how they're just sitting here waiting. And that gives us a little bit more power, which is much better in the long run. We have made quite a few arms, I assume by now. 7 whole arms. Good. Good. And we can just keep feeding in this iron plate to keep making belts here, and it can keep coming down the line to make science and then therefore research going on, as well as feeding into things like the inserter maker, which takes a lot more gears. In fact, this takes 4 gears, whereas this only took, what, 1 gear per belt? 2 gears per belt. 1 gear per belt? 1 gear per belt. So we actually have to should make more gears here than we are in order to feed this, to keep this going at full speed. But I think it's fine at the way that it is. So we're probably going to need a little more iron here, but we kind of have a little bit of a tangled up mess here in terms of how can we get this coal and this iron and everything to work out right. And I'm thinking / hoping that the answer is in the next research, which we are 2 points away from. So hopefully they will finish up momentarily and we can actually use those items. Maybe. I don't know. It must take a moment to actually tick through, like, to do the research. I don't think it actually says how much it takes to, how much time it takes to do the research, but it's input a bunch of them. Okay, well, we're done now. Finish research of crossings. So before we take a look at those, let's come back in here and let's start the next, which is 2-belt mixing. There we go. And let's take a look at crossings. The recipe for crossings is 8 belts per crossing. That's a lot of belts. We could potentially take the belts from here instead of inserting them in or putting them into the provider. We could potentially put them into another assembler making crossings, or we could make another module that makes crossings directly. But obviously there's quite a bit of something that goes into this, so I don't know that I want to do that exactly, but we can try it. Let's delete this and let's take one of these. No, let's not do that, because that clones the recipe as well. Let's take it from the menu, and then we'll set the recipe here for crossings, and that's going to take in 8 belts. So it's going to take a few moments to actually make one, and in the meantime we can take care of this, and we can take care of this. Oops. And then we can make some crossings, and I want to kind of let those get made while we kind of wait. It's just going to take it. How long do those take? 2,000 seconds, but it's really more, or 2,000 ticks, excuse me. But it's really more like 8,000, because a belt takes 1,000 and we need 8 belts. So it's going to be more like, well, actually it's going to be more like 10,000, because for the first one, which 10,000 divided by 60 is a long time. That's almost 3 minutes. So I don't know if we should wait, or if we should come up with something else to set up while we're waiting. In fact, this is probably too much here, but we're going to do something with that, so it'll be fine. And so it might be a good idea to pause and come back when this has made at least one. I think we'll do that, so I'll be right back. And welcome back. So we have actually made 2. I just went ahead and waited that extra couple of minutes just to get 2 of them in here. So the first thing I'd like to do is to place one of these down, and I want to put it right in here. And we can see right away that it does appear that it doesn't like try to send the thing, so it is indeed the crossing that I was hoping that it was. So let's just build a continuation of this belt like that, and then we'll turn this like this, and we'll take this straight up to, and I could drag and place these, I just didn't think about it, all the way up to there, and let's take this out, and delete, oops, and delete, and then I'm going to delete all of these belts, but we'll do that using this tool here, the cursor, remove cursor, which you can use to click to remove these different things. Now I think we can also change the selection mode to remove. No. There's some way I thought to create, to drag a box around stuff, but I'm not seeing what it is. So we'll just click and delete. But it saves you a little bit of time, I think, instead of using the delete key on the keyboard and trying to, line up your 2 hands working together, to just switch to delete mode, and then you can just click, point and click to delete. And that seems to make a fair amount of sense. But one of the things we're having a problem with here is we're a little short on iron plates again. So we need to fix that, and I think we'll fix that here by adding in another smelter and another inserter here. And then hopefully we'll be able to put in a crossing right here. And that will serve as a way to get a 3rd smelter going. As long as this works. It needs coal though too. So we probably need an arm here. And then a belt here. To get that coal off of this belt and into this machine, bypassing the intersections here. Because we want to be able to split this, but we can't split it right now because we don't have anything to split with. So I think that's the way we need to do this. Let's keep deleting these belts. So we're going to have a ton of belts available to us now because we're getting rid of this wasteful belt loop over here. Now, one thing I don't know is what happens to items if you delete a belt. So if I delete that belt right there, all the coal that was on that belt, I don't know where it goes. I suspect it goes nowhere, but I could be wrong on that. We'll see. We'll have to see. But until we have a way to split an item like this, we have to use arms as a bit of a pseudo splitter, which I think is okay too. So we have 3 coal supporting now 4 smelters. Is that too much? Or furnace burners? Is that too much? Should we have, or is that not enough now? Too many burners? Maybe if this one was burning ever, but it's not really, because we're not even using the copper anymore. So, and we can actually even delete those components. We don't really need them anymore. But that's fine. For now, we're making these these crossings, and we are good now. So we have 1 crossing available. We have 88 belts. Yeah, we're good. And we have started to be able to make 3 times the plates now, and you can see them flowing down the line. Hopefully we can get this research going a little bit faster now. This is kind of the only thing that that really still bothers me about the game is how slow everything seems to run. Yes, I can double or triple, but until I have ways to manage the flow of items a little bit, which I'm guessing that the 2 belt mixing will give me, I don't really want to, I can't really build this too much bigger without it really being a horrible spaghetti mess. At least I don't think I can, unless I'm not really following some component to this. I mean, I suppose you could take this coal belt, and maybe we could do this. We could be a little creative here, right? Right. What if instead of doing the coal belt like this, what if we take the coal belt from here and go, do I want to go this way? No, I want to go here, I think. If I put a coal belt here, and then I can, I wonder if I can actually. Well, let's try this out. Let's see how this works, because I honestly have no idea how this is going to work. Let's change these slightly just for my own reasons. There, and there. Let's put a crossing in right here. And then if I take this belt this way, let's click. The developer also gave me some hints as to how this click thing works, how the click drag works. And you, from what I can see, you basically have to click and hold the first one until it lights up bold or color, and then you can drag. Until you let the first one light up bold in color, then you won't get anything out of it. Can I do this now? Can I drop these onto that, and what happens to them? Oh, it puts them right exactly where I want it. So I can actually feed the coal across like this. And for this one, I can just do a simple belt like that. And I can let these kind of drain through, of course. It's going to take them a little bit of time. But that actually works out really well, surprisingly well. It's a lot of, it's a lot of these, though, a lot of these arms to do. But I think that's okay. Let's delete this. These. Oops. Yeah, I'm moving my. See, this is why this is a little bit better, because you can time your sequences a little bit better with deleting if you use the delete tool. I'd actually kind of like it if when you press the delete key, it just switched your cursor to delete mode, remove mode. But maybe that's not as functionally wise. I'm not sure. What happens if I put one of these here? Without anything going, okay, diddly and squat. So they will only grab from that edge of the crossing. That's great. I like this. And I only had to use a belt here because the ore belt stops. So this is even cleaner. So I can actually do some amount of like smelting arrays like this. This works out pretty well. I wonder if these will make my life even easier though, because I like my life being easier. So let's delete. Delete, 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 delete. You get the idea. That. And then one of these here. And that should do it for this little smelting array of 3. But we could easily extend that to be... and actually I could even move this sooner and whatever. But they could even extend this to be even more. I don't know what the capacity is of these belts. Does it say what the speed is? No. I don't know if that 20 means 20 ticks, or if that's not what that means. No, it's slower than that. It's a few seconds per belt segment. So I don't know what the capacity of a belt is in terms of how many smelters you can put on a belt. That's something to examine, to test out a little bit, but I think that would do it. We're now getting the science a little bit faster. We could speed this along by adding in more assemblers, making the science, which is... Where the heck is the science? Other? Yeah. RT1 500. So we could do that. What's the research time on these? Does it say? That's not the research time, I don't think. I don't know if we can see what the research time is. But we could potentially have more of these feeding into a single chest. How much? 1 plate. Yeah, we could potentially have more of those feeding into one chest. That could work. Arms. We have 23 arms available. How many belts are we at now? 96. And we have 3 crossings. After all that work, we have 3 crossings. We're at 75, so we're not that far off. Is there anything else we can kind of focus down for a moment here? Power's good for now. We looked at how to expand. I don't know that there is, other than expanding how this works. So maybe we should just do that. I could probably just remove some of this stuff here even. Let's do that. Again, I don't know where this stuff goes. I also don't know if there's a limit, or there's an amount of coal in each of these spots, or the amount of iron or copper in each of these spots. I don't know if they run out even. So that's something else to ask the developer, or to think about, or to look at. Let's clone this. Let's clone that. And then I want to do something like this. And I think I need to put a belt or something here to act as a buffer, but actually I don't know. So let's try without it, just to see what happens. Okay, we do need the belt then. I guess it probably doesn't matter which way the belt flows. They should be fine, but this seems like the most logical way to make it flow. So that now has doubled our science production, which means that assuming that this can take all of it, which it seems like it can. We'll see if it pauses at all, or if it gets, if it gets full at all. Honestly, I don't know where this is, how this processes, so it could have a problem, I suppose. We also might need more smelting, which could be a problem as well. Yeah, it looks like it's feeding them all in still. We're at 90 now. No, it did pause right there. So there is a limit to how much these can hold, how many they can process in a unit of time. I just don't know where we can find that information out. But also, we're kind of moving pretty fast now anyways, so I think we're okay. Here, at this rate, we could add another lab. We do have more labs, so we could just add another lab too. Was that just finish? It did just finish. Great. So the next thing, swappers and mixers. We of course don't have any of these. What do they take to make? 4 belts, 4 belts. Oh, gravy. That means we probably should make more belts, which means we probably need more iron, and you know where this is going. So, but let's take a look at what these might do instead. How many of these do we have now? 4. Let's just reprogram this to be a swapper instead. It's going to take, well, it's going to take half the number of belts that the crossings did. But let's make a couple of swappers. And then we'll also make a couple of mixers, and we'll see how those work in a moment. We are stuck now. We are not doing any research. So let's go in here to the research and take a look at, how about 3-belt mixing? Because the next things here are kind of the next level of science. So I kind of don't want to do those until we do all the kind of tier 1 sciences. I was looking at that a little off camera, just to see how that kind of worked. So this appears to stop at 2 times the number. The 13 took me a minute to figure out. I think that it's a consideration of the number of iron, the amount of iron that went into the machine before 1 belt came out. I think, but even with that, I'm not sure. And also, there were 3 in there. Why were there 3 in there? I don't know. I'm slightly confused on how that is, because this only says it only takes 3, but I guess 3 times 3 is 9. Gears take 2 each. So maybe it's talking about making some amount of gears too? Like 2 gears? Why would that be? I don't know. I don't know what that number represents. But I think it's okay. Let's see. Do we have any of these things done yet? No. Oh, there's one. So we now have 1 swapper. Let's go ahead and place it down and see what it looks like. See what it does. So based on this, it looks like it takes anything that comes into the left side, if in this orientation, obviously, and dumps it out the right side, and takes anything in from the right side and dumps it out the left side without mixing them. Because we can also see here on this, even though we can't build it yet, that they go to orange, which means that they're mixed. So mixer mixes, swapper swaps. So what would we use a swapper for? Well, here's an idea. Delete that. We could have, now this won't work in this orientation because both belts would have to come in the same direction. But let's say we took this belt straight up and then turned it around and came back down again, even up to here. We could do a swapper like right here, and we could have the coal coming in one side, the iron coming in the other, swap, and then the coal would be here on this belt if this was just a straight through belt, and then the iron would be right here where this inserter is on a straight through belt, and then you could swap them, and then you'd pick up the coal from here, and the iron would pass by because it already got picked up here, and then you'd have another set of belts right here, and you still have the coal right here, you'd still have the iron right here, and they would pick up coal with this inserter, or this arm, and then you swap them again, right here. And then you have now iron in this spot, and coal in this spot. So I think you could do something like that, which is kind of crazy, of an idea. Oh, we got 2 of these now. Let's reprogram again. This, I don't know what happens to the items that were in there. I'm assuming we probably kind of lost them. But we could try that build instead of this to see if that's a little bit more efficient. Because the arms do cost a lot of iron. They cost 12 iron. And so we're effectively using here 24 iron, well, 12 extra iron here, as well as the crossing, which is 24 iron. So this is costing us, for every burner, it's costing us an extra 24 plus 12 iron, because we still have to have two in, as far as I can think. If we do this instead, this would cost us 12 iron plus 3 iron per belt, so that's only going to be like 18 iron, so it's a little bit cheaper, and maybe that's a good idea. Let's try it with just these 2 then. Deleting this guy, deleting this guy, and deleting this, and onward. Let's put in the swapper. Oops, swapper. Here. And then let's take this belt up like that. So we should see, we do, iron here on this side. Now, coal on this side. I need to be careful. I need to be very careful. Delete that. Let's put this here, this here. So now this is going to grab the coal, and we'll still be smelting here. We have a problem, though, because this guy's got iron in his hand. Let's do this. Put that back. And then we can do this and that. And now this one's got coal. And then delete this, and then we can do another swapper here. And we can do iron's back here now, and coal is out here, which we don't need to continue anymore, but we could if we were going to another smelter. So that seems to work out well as well. We did need a few more belts because we came from a different direction here, so this had to feed in the items differently, but I think this would work just the same. And you're using 2 belts and the swapper, which is 3, 6, 18 iron, versus the crossing and an R, which is 24 plus 12. So it's half the iron to do it this way versus the other way. If I'm doing it right here on this math, which I may or may not be doing, but you can also see we're kind of running low on iron again. So we actually would need a fourth furnace here. But I think what we'll do is we'll leave this here for this episode. We'll get into the 3-belt mixing in the next one and see what that entails. It looks like it unlocks mergers and splitters. And then we'll continue to take a look at the game from beyond this point. Let me know what you think about the game. Let me know if you have any feedback on the way I'm playing it, or things that I'm not certain about, if you have any ideas on that. And anything else about the game in the comments, or come to my Discord. You can find that link in the description below. And I will see you all in the next one, say in about a week. Thanks for joining me. Bye for now.